Hello, everybody. Can anybody hear me? Can we all hear me?
Loud and clear. Good afternoon.
All right. Good afternoon.
I can hear you, bro.
Good afternoon, everybody. I trust that our day is going well. Thank you so much for joining A4S Sustainability SDG 7 webinar today. Please kindly go to the chat room and introduce yourself. Tell me your name, what you do, what organization are you representing, and your location. Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Thank you so much. Can we all go to the chat box and tell us your name, what you do, where you're joining in from? Thank you so much, Godwin. Thank you so much. And in addition to that, can you also tell me your expectations for today's webinar? Wing of A4S, thank you so much for responding. Because I can't pronounce your first name, I would just resort to your last name. That would be Gatti, right? Gatti, please, you can correct my pronunciation. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. I'm sorry. Please, can you pronounce your name so that I can learn how to pronounce it better?
Doche Gatti.
Aha, Doche Gatti. Okay,
Yes.
Nice to meet you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Even though I'm still expecting some responses, please, you can share the links with your colleagues, people that you know that this webinar is going to be beneficiary too, because we know that SDG 7 is a portion of SDG that is not very popular, but I mean, it's very vital. So you can share the link, you can get people to join us. And it will really be good because our speaker today is really somebody that we're looking forward to learning from and getting one or two insights on how to contribute our quota towards SDG 7. Yes. So before we bring our speaker up, permit me to do a little bit of introduction with respect to SDG 7. And so because of our time, I would have asked everybody to go to the chat box to tell me what their thoughts are when they hear SDG 7. But I mean, we are working with time, so let me just quickly move along. So when we hear SDG 7, permit me to assume, like everybody like me, that are not affiliated or primarily in the energy industry. So when we hear SDG 7, we think energy people, all this light and electricity people. Or this light and electricity people rather, and SDG 7 in itself, talks about affordable. I feel like it's a double-edged sword because it talks about one, affordable, and two, clean energy. And pairing affordable and clean, it sounds like a how am I going to call it now? It sounds like Mission Impossible, because we've been able to have clean energy, but unfortunately, as it were, it's not cheap, it's not affordable at all. And so we are going to be learning a lot on how to pair and work alongside the targets to be able to achieve affordable and clean energy. So let me just quickly run across my slides. Then we give the platform to the experts in the room. So yes, when it comes to Sustainable Development Goal 7, it focuses on, like I rightly said earlier, affordability and clean, because it really promotes economic growth, improved living standards, education, amongst many others. Unfortunately, we have I know that this statistics was from, I think, 2018, where it says that over 770 million people still lack access to electricity. And you would agree with me that it's even rightly there, Africa, and Africa is like a stronghold. We are like a major contender amongst the 770 million people that lack electricity. Like, maybe the problem is not if it's clean or it is not clean, or if it's affordable, it's not affordable. Electricity, as it's known to be, unfortunately, we do not have, like, not everybody have access to it, especially in Africa and in South Asia. And this lack of energy, it differs. It puts a gap between certain things. One of it includes personal development, also limits community and national progress. And I know somebody will be asking how lack of electricity is hindering their personal progress. I mean, if you didn't get lights to charge your devices today, trust me, both yourself and myself would not be on this call today to learn. So that's like a perfect example of how lack of electricity, as it were, bridges the gap between knowledge and growth, as it were. Okay, so, and when we talk about affordable and clean energy, it feels like an ambiguous word, but really it is more on transitioning to renewable sources of energy, such as solar, wind, and hydro. Hydro means water, so more of the water-powered electricity. Sorry, please give me a minute. Okay, yes, more like water-powered electricity. Okay, so the statistics I was showing with us earlier, you see that, okay, it's even more. Can you imagine? It's even more that in 2010, we had 1.2 billion people without access to electricity, but now we have 789 people as at 2018. The statistics currently, it's not very clear, but trust me, I think that the margin is not going to be a lot. The margin is not going to be a lot different from what we have at very best, or at very best, we could be saying that we are looking at 500 million people still not having access to electricity, and the larger share of it would be Africa. People in Africa still not having it. And when I talk about Africa, most of us like to think about Somalia and there are some places in Nigeria that they still do not have access to electricity. They don't have poles, and I'm not exaggerating. It was through my research that I was able to discover that it's just the urban side of the nation that can say, oh, they have constant power supply. Okay, so good. Like, this is another statistics that says that 87% of the 840 million people currently do not have electricity, live in rural areas. Like I said, only the people that stay in the urban side of the nation, of different nations, can boldly say that they enjoy power supply as it were, or as we know it to be. But the truth is that for those that are in the rural environment, they do not have it. They don't even have expectation with respect to light, and that hampers the goal of SDG 7. Because if they don't even have light, where do we want to start the conversation of affordable and renewable energy source? Good. So benefit of energy access, in layman terms, benefit of light, right? We have economic development, improved health outcomes, reduction in energy costs, strengthened reliance to climate change, amongst many others. And so, to drive home whatever it is that we'll be doing today, these are some of SDG 7's key targets, and you can take a screenshot of this slide, because I think that is something that you need to be referring to over and over again. But one of it will be to double the rate of double the global rate of improvement in energy efficiency by 2030. Another one will be to promote investment in energy infrastructure and clean energy technology. So I hope everybody has taken like a screenshot, because you're going to need to refer to this slide but before the end of the presentation, right? So we have top 10 global challenges. I won't be able to talk about everything. Trust me, I won't be able to talk about everything. But one of it is high energy cost. My band A people that are in Nigeria, people that join us from Nigeria, my band A people, I'm sure that high energy cost is something that is making your heart beat dum 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 dum, right? Yes. Another one will be limited investment in renewable energy, and as it's where most of us know various types of renewable energy. We have the solar. So I think solar is one of like the most popular ones that we know. And if you have what's the name now? If you have solar panels installed in your house, please kindly drop a message in the chat box, because I want to know the rich people in our midst right now, because we understand that solar energy is renewable, but over time it's not very affordable. One of the issues they are facing in that industry is because there's limited investment, and there's not so much focus on it. I mean, we could spend all day talking about all of these global challenges, but we have to quickly run through. So corporate role in SDG, because one of the things that we're also looking to achieve is that every single person must contribute the quota one way or the other when it comes to SDGs, and SDG 7 is not an exemption. And so one of the things would be to invest in renewable energy. Like I said before, we understand that there have been various, solutions and innovations in that industry, but they need people to invest in the industry. We need people to facilitate learning and different innovations in the industry to enhance the industry growth, and to also put it out there to make it very affordable. For example, we have companies like Google and Apple that have committed to using 100% renewable energy for their operations. That's like a large share of the global market. Like if Google and Apple, are saying that, what, we want to use it. Imagine top companies like that joining them, the Fortune 500 joining them, and as it were, you will see that we are all pushing forward to a more sustainable future with respect to the energy industry. I spoke briefly on innovation, but a perfect example will be Tesla advancement in battery technology and electric vehicles, to transform the entire automotive industry. I think that's... Can anybody hear me, please? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, all right. I'm sorry if you could not hear me. I was talking about the advancements that Tesla had made when it comes to the automotive industry with respect to energy. And I think some weeks ago we found that they recently, Elon Musk recently launched the vehicle, that the taxi, or the vehicle that does not need you don't need any control or anything. It drives you by itself, right? So it's advancement, and we need more innovative advancement when it comes to that industry. And lastly, it would be advocating for sustainable policies. And I think I mentioned that earlier, where I said that imagine all the Fortune 500, think of Nigeria, think of all our Dangotes, and as it were, coming together to say that we want renewable, clean energy. That's what we are going to be using. Trust me, the government will come up with policies that we accommodate all of it. All of it as it were. So that brings me to the end of my own presentation. I'll be handing over to my colleague Oyi, even as she introduces our speaker for today. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you remain on the call to learn more.
Thank you, Esther, for that beautiful presentation. Thank you so much. So now we'll be moving on to introducing our speaker. I'll be sharing my screen. Hello, everyone. Our speaker for today is Mr. Egwu Ifeanyichukwu. I hope I'm pronouncing your name well. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, okay. So let's start. Mr. Egwu Ifeanyichukwu is an entrepreneur, Is a dynamic entrepreneur with a strong background in both science and business. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry from Madonna University. He graduated in 2009 and later earned a Master's in Business Administration from the Open University. His professional journey began as a relationship officer at Fidelity Bank, where he honed his skills in customer relationship management and corporate strategy. Seeking new challenges, he transitioned into the aviation industry, serving as a licensed dispatch officer for a chartered airline for 3 years. In pursuit of greater entrepreneurial ambitions, Mr. Egwu Ifeanyichukwu ventured into the business world, where he thrived for over 10 years. Currently, he is the CEO of Esodora Electronics, a company dedicated to providing energy-efficient solutions. Under his leadership, Esodora aims to have their solar product in 1 million homes by 2027. That's very impressive. Their vision is to become the #1 solar energy company in Nigeria and Africa, championing clean, renewable energy across the continent. Can you please give him a round of applause? Mr. Ifeanyichukwu, over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly, sir.
All right. Good afternoon, and thank you. With what we just listened to, with the presentation we just listened to, she has practically summarized everything that has to do with clean energy, and that was well presented. And I'm very happy to be part of an organization that has such vision for clean energy in Africa and in the world as whole. So thanks for this opportunity. We're going to dive right into my slide. We're not going to waste time. It's quite a very short slide, so it's self-explanatory. I don't know. Are you? What? Okay, that's nice. That's nice. Right. So what we're talking about today is affordable and clean energy. As rightly said, energy in itself is quite expensive. When the news came up that Dangote was going to start a refining field in Nigeria, that was actually a welcome development because for a very long time, Nigeria has been importing for a while. And a country that can't control its energy source is actually dead. That's to show you how important energy is. In this context, though, we're going to talk about energy and classify it into two forms, which is renewable and non-renewable energy. Non-renewable energy is what we're used to using around in the country, which are fossil fuel. And it is not environmentally friendly. It causes a lot of problems, as you said. One of them is climate change, which is why we're experiencing excess heat. When we dive into the supposedly Hamatan, if you've noticed, there's no Hamatan anymore in Nigeria. These things are due to the excess greenhouse gases that are trapping sunlight and causing excess heat in the country. So our climate is changing drastically and we're going further and further away from the norm. When I was younger, in December, you can't come out, but right now it's as hot as hell. That is the effect of fossil fuel in the country. Let's go to the next slide, please. So we're going to talk about renewable energy. Renewable energy is simply defined as energy derived from sources or processes that are constantly replenished, self-replenishing energy. One of the things you would say is, why is nuclear energy one of the renewable energies? Well, nuclear energy is still being debated as one of the renewable energies because of its hazards and because most of the time it's not replenished in our own time scale. So I put it here as renewable energy refers to energy derived from natural sources or processes that are constantly replenished, unlike fossil fuel. If you've listened constantly to one of the fears that they're having in the world, which is one of the main reasons why a lot of countries are going into renewable energy, they are saying that the deposit of fossil fuel in the world now is decreasing. They are giving it 2070, and by about that time, they expect that all the fossil fuel in the world, that is crude deposits in the world, will have dried up, which is actually quite scary. So non-renewable energies are finite, while renewable energy is infinite, right? So they regenerate naturally and have low environmental impact. This sources of energy are sustainable and contribute significantly to reducing carbon emission and combating climate change. Now, what I want us to know before we start, this is just a preamble. We need to understand that for everybody that chooses to go clean, the person is not only securing their future, they're also securing the future of generations to come. Because what we are experiencing right now, from the melting of the ice cap to the heat surges we're experiencing, is because of the bad management of our forefathers when they were solely dependent on non-renewable energy, from gasoline to fuel to the rest. And those effects now are coming down. So if you notice, we're having a lot of tsunamis of late. The polar ice cap is melting, water levels are rising. All these things are effects of bad use of energy over the past few years. Next slide, please. All right, importance of renewable energy. It reduces dependency on fossil fuel, which is actually a very big important because the petroleum that we use, many of us might not know, contain lead. And in a research I was listening to a few days back, they said the lead composition in the bones of the present man is 70 times more than in the bones of maybe prehistoric men gotten maybe 50, 70 years ago. Because every time a car passes by you, it deposits lead into your system, which is very terrible. If you know how poisonous lead is, you will understand how terrible that is, right? Tackling climate change and reducing carbon emission, and then encouraging environmental sustainability. All right, let's go to the next slide, right? Now we're going to talk about types of renewable energy, which has been explained already by my previous colleague. Solar energy. Solar energy is what we all know. In Nigeria here, we are quite, can everyone hear me? I hope you can hear me.
Loud and clear, sir.
All right, so if there's any question along the way, please, you could stop me and ask. It's not a problem. It can be as interactive as you want it to be. Solar energy is something that is very popular here. In where I stay in Lagos State, practically all the houses I have around me are solar panels. Many of them are being gone off the grid totally. So that is, so it basically uses sunlight through photovoltaic panels to produce energy that we now consume and use in our appliances. We have wind energy, we use turbines. We have hydro energy, we use your hydro plants. Then we have bioenergy, like your charcoal and the rest of all that, and wood, burning wood and the rest of all that. Then we have geothermal. Geothermal are like your volcano deposits. You find them maybe in specific areas in the world. And those energies in those areas are financed, converting heat to electricity, which is actually very, very nice. So all these that I have mentioned are replenishable in our time scale. So solar energy on a daily basis is replenishable. Wind energy you can see constantly. So that's very, very important when you're trying to identify renewable energy in many places, right? Next slide. The chart you're seeing here, the slide is not moving. Hello? We're still on the importance of renewable energy. Is that what everybody's saying?
Yes, sir. That's what we can see.
Okay, so you need to move one more slide.
Now it has moved to types of renewable energy.
Okay, I just explained this. She needs to go to the next slide. All right, so this chart you're looking at is the level of adoption of the different forms of renewable energy globally. Geothermal produces the highest amount of energy, but it's the least adopted. The reason why it's least adopted is because it is geographically located. So in Nigeria here, I don't know if they have any geothermal sites, but there are countries where you have geothermal sites and they can. Solar, hydro is more accepted. Which is what we use here in Nigeria through the dams and all that. And solar is coming up very well. I'm very impressed. 25%, so it's coming up. And wind energy is following that. Most of the reason why solar is coming up, which I'll see as we go down the slide, right? So next slide. So now we're into it. Why is solar the most commercially acceptable form of renewable energy? So it is, we are when we're looking at all the forms of renewable energy right now, we are saying here that solar is one of the most acceptable forms. I don't know if you've been to anybody's house and you've seen them using hydro. I personally have not seen it. And in Nigeria here, I've not actually seen wind being used, but in China and other countries, they use very, very big turbines. One of the reasons why it's the most acceptable one is availability. Solar is available in most parts of the world, most parts. Almost every part, no matter how dim that place is, has a little bit of sunlight. When I traveled to the UK to see my brother, as dim, as poor as their sunlight is, they're still encouraging people to install panels and then do net metering and sell off energy to people. So solar is available. The sunlight is bountiful. It's just there. It's just for us to find a way to harness it, right? It's scalable as well. From small residential systems to large solar farms. So we can produce energy from as low as 1 kV to as much as 100 terabytes, 100 kilowatts rather, and all this can be gotten from the sun. It's not it doesn't segment on the amount of power that it can provide to you. Then decrease in cost and ease of installation and maintenance. With the new technologies now in lithium-ion batteries now almost, in fact, it's self-maintained. And then the new tech innovations in the monocrystalline panels, you find out that the cost of production of all these things have actually reduced. Although it's still quite expensive, but in comparison to maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, it is way better, way, way better. And installation is quite easy. You just use your roof, which is quite easy and makes everything very, very affordable for people, right? So benefits of solar is cost effective. Once installed, a solar system provides free energy. This cost effectiveness now, I'm sure almost every Nigerian can relate to it, because as the last time I checked, I bought fuel for my car at 1,200 naira. That is when I was giving a customer an estimate on how much he spends on the monthly day. I told him if you're buying only 10 liters of fuel for your business on a daily basis, you're spending 12,000 naira a day. That means in a month, you're spending about 360,000 naira. And that the fuel will not, and that amount of fuel will not last you for 4 hours. So it doesn't really make economic sense to continue spending that kind of money. Solar is the way to go, right? It reduces carbon footprint. Now, at consumption, solar reduces carbon footprint. We haven't still gotten a very effective way to mine the resources and all that, but they are working on it, and I'm sure in the nearest future, because at consumption, it reduces carbon footprint, which is far, far better than your fossil fuel, because at consumption, they are still increasing carbon footprint. So from production to consumption, fossil fuel is still increasing your carbon footprint, but at consumption, solar reduces carbon footprint, right? No maintenance costs, which are done. After the initial setup cost, which is usually the problem, which is what we're going to try and tackle there, it requires minimal maintenance, very minimal maintenance, right? Job creation. And in my establishment here, I have solar installers that have been trained. It's young boys making their 70, 100,000 naira on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, very easy money for them, because and then allows individuals and nations to generate their own electricity, which is very obvious, right? Next slide. Disadvantages of solar energy. That's what we are. Disadvantages of solar energy. We need to go to the next slide. Are we together? Should I continue?
Yeah, we are together.
Okay, but the slide isn't showing. I'm sure we're having a technical issue to soon come up, but let me just keep on explaining what I'm saying. All right, so one of the disadvantages of solar is weather dependency. In Port Harcourt, we installed a 10 kilowatt system for someone, and the guy has been complaining because it's been raining cat and dog in Port Harcourt of late. In fact, as at this morning itself, they called us that the rain is there. And as much as the monocrystalline panels can work under minimal sunlight, when there is heavy rain, there's really nothing you can do, which is the reason why we need them sufficient backups, but still it's weather dependent. If that continues for like 4 days, you will drain your backup, and after that, you might not be able to remove your energy. The initial cost of installation, which is what we have mentioned, is although the price has decreased, the initial setup cost can still be quite high. Yes. Then space requirement. The panels. If you want to run a 630 watt panel on your to carry, you need real space to do that. So assuming you're running a 10 kilowatt system, that means you're trying to set up a solar farm. You need space where you can mount them with your racks and the rest of them. So it requires space, right? Then energy storage and challenges. Energy can either be stored or consumed. So when the batteries that are required can add to the cost of your system. So when we're installing in farms, when I go to a farm to install, we really want to power their, what they call this thing, pumping machines and all that. Most of them don't require batteries. You just connect the panel to their roof, connect your inverter, and then it powers their, because they want to just power it during the day. But if the person now requires storage, maybe to use it at night, then the batteries will add an extra cost to the cost of the system. Next slide, please. Okay, so addressing affordability in solar. So that's basically what we are here to talk about today. Now that we understand that solar can be expensive, although we know that it is a vital part of our economy right now and our lives. In Keja, or 3 days or 4 days ago, I heard that the grid went down. That is not good for business at all. People were lamenting. If you're in that kind of situation and the grid goes down, you need something that will give you constant electricity. You need to remove yourself from that dependency so that your business and your home will not keep running down every time that the country experiences one problem or the other. So addressing affordability in solar, right? So government subsidies and incentives, right? So I don't have data if they are planning to implement any of this in Nigeria, but I'm going to talk about the UK. So we have feed-in tariffs. When in my brother's house in the UK, when I got there, I advised him that because they do what they call net metering. Net metering is a situation where you install panels on your roof and then you can sell tariff to the government and they pay you for the amount of energy. Although they limit the amount of sales that you can make over the amount of energy you can produce, rather, so you don't become an energy producing company. There are some laws given there. But in Nigeria here, if the government can actually implement that, I'm sure it will encourage a lot of people to put in panels in their home. That way, we that have the funds, those that have the funds can produce energy and then serve those that don't have. And it will also reduce this energy cost from band A, band B, and all these things that they are bringing up to see whether they can portion energy properly. Tax breaks. Of late, when we tried bringing in solar panels into the country, in Nigeria here, during this administration, they gave us some tax breaks, allowing panels to come in at almost close to nothing duty, which actually helped reduce the cost in that period, although they've taken it off as of now. I don't know if they're going to bring it back, but at least during that time, the cost of panels reduced seriously in the country, which was really very, very nice. So net metering and feed-in tariffs, right? Financial options. So solar leasing, pay as you go, and other flexible options. So in my organization, and I'm sure in other organizations as well, there's what we call it pay small. We partnered with a few banks. So when you pick up a system, you can spread it for like 4 years with an initial deposit of maybe 20% or something like that. Things like that are coming up around the country. And it's really encouraging people to pick up solar systems as an option, no longer an alternative to energy. Technological advancement, which I mentioned, the technological advancement, especially in panels. Right now, we're having panels as high as 720 watts. I'm hearing that 1,000 watts is coming up, which is beautiful, meaning you require minimal space for more energy. The problem we are having with technology before was that the highest wattage you are getting before was 200 watts. So you will notice someone, which is also something that's easy to fool people. They tell you, I will install 30 panels. You carry 120 watt panels and fill up your roof, and then you're not getting the required energy. But right now, due to technology, the wattage that is produced by a single panel is so high that you require fewer panels on your roof, thereby saving you costs, right? and then microgrids for rural areas. So microgridding is there is this container type of setup that you can put in rural areas where either you can charge them on usage or you can charge them on a monthly basis. You install it there and then run wires to them in rural area. And because you're getting your energy from the sun, you're not going to actually charge them so much. The fee is really, really small. Some estates in Lagos State have actually implemented it in their estate. So the 4 estates will come together, they put that 40-feet container. It might contain like 5 kilowatts inverters. No, what am I saying? 5,000 kilowatts inverters rather. And then they put in batteries as well, and then they spread it to themselves. Why they share the cost of installation and then other things that come with it. All right, next slide. I hope we're together.
Yes,
Are we
sir.
together?
Yes.
All right. So global trends in solar energy space. Let's just go to the next slide. So solar adoption in Africa and emerging, which is what she said. She mentioned a very scary statistic that 700 and something million people globally don't have access to electricity. The African markets and emerging markets, which is Nigeria is one of them, is really keen into solar energy. In fact, the space, the projected return on investment for those that go into solar energy right now is quite high. Although I'm not going to talk about that now, but it's something that we should anybody can actually try and look into. So also affordable access to energy in off-grid and all the undeserved areas. In Nigeria, when she was saying that she has done a research and many places, you don't even need to, the research is right in front of us. Here, close to me here in Ikeja, where I am, there are areas where you will step into, and I don't know whether NEPA has taken away their pool or they don't, there is nothing there. There is nothing there. So it's one of the trends that is going on now is that people are coming up, getting their solar systems, installing them by themselves and providing power for themselves. People are taking off their wires from disconnecting themselves from the grid generally because of the unreliability of their power supply. And then potential large-scale adoption across Africa and other African nations, which is what is definitely going to come into play. All right, next slide. Okay, safety precautions, inferior and fairly used products. So I decided to add this here because when we're talking of affordability, especially in Nigeria, there is this thing that is going around. They call it Tokumbo panels, Tokumbo batteries. I don't know if anybody does Tokumbo inverters, but I've not seen those ones yet. And the picture you're seeing there depicts one of the dangers of solar. So as much as it's an alternative for energy, it can cause fire hazards if not properly handled. So what I said here is that we should avoid Tokumbo. Next slide. We should avoid them at all costs. Never patronize inferior solar panels. So even within the solar panel, monocrystalline solar panel, which are brand new, people are cutting corners. So a lot of people in the markets, they say they pasted this sticker. So they tell you that they are selling to you a 540 watts panel, while they sell to you a 240 watt panel. So there are a lot of nonsense going on in the space, which is very unfortunate. People are buying Tokumbo panels, and I want to emphasize on that. Now, a panel, when produced, let me use a monocrystalline panel, comes with an average efficiency of 21 to 25% and a lifespan of 30 years. That's how panels are produced. You buy a Tokumbo panel that is brought in from Canada because that's one that is very popular. You have no idea how long that panel has been used by the previous owner. Then you bring it into Nigeria. So you don't know what efficiency it is currently. You don't know how long they used it. That person probably may have used it for maybe 20 years. So it has a lifespan of 10 years left. And the efficiency has dropped to like 10% or 12% or something. And then you're wondering why you're not getting the amount of energy you require in your home. So patronizing those things is you're practically just cheating yourself. And if the installer, if you don't use a professional rather, and then you buy bad products, it could lead to fire. There are a lot of instances. The Tokumbo panel batteries can explode. Then, so the best thing is to consult a professional and then get your system installed. All right, and now we are closing discussion. Please take away. Solar energy is affordable, scalable, and has a bright future. So solar energy is affordable on the long term. It's an investment. It's not. I don't like people looking at solar energy or installation as an immediate quick fix. It's an investment. When you want to do it, you calculate yourself in the next 10 years, because that's how how long I believe a solar system should last you. In the next 10 years, what would have been my cost if I was reliant on fossil fuel? What would have been the amount of damage I would have done to the environment, which is that one is unquantifiable. And then what is my current costs right now that I'm using solar energy? When you calculate it from that perspective, you find out that it's actually affordable, even if you don't have the cost to go into it. And then there are also solutions for those that don't have the cost to go into it. Banks can help fund you. You can meet organizations that will help fund you, and then you can enjoy uninterrupted energy. Challenges like cost and energy storage are being addressed through innovations and policy. Solar can power homes, businesses, and communities sustainably. All right. So thank you for listening. That's my bit, and I'm open to questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Are there any questions, comments?
Okay, so we'll now move to the Q&A session. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat room, and our speaker will address as many as we can within our remaining time. Kindly drop all your questions in the chat room, please. Okay, we have a comment from Dr. Orlando. I said alternative power usually have a huge upfront cost. You can also share your comments in the chat room, your questions.
Okay, if I understand, can I answer the question? Can I answer the question I'm saying? Am I fit to or should I wait?
Yes, sure. Please
Okay,
go
right.
ahead.
Okay, so the question is, alternative power usually has a huge upfront cost. How do we manage that? Okay, so in my presentation, I said there's nothing we can actually do about the upfront cost depending on your need for energy. But what you can do is you can go for facilities. So you can approach organizations, you can approach my organization, you can approach any organization that has partnership with financial institutions. They will charge you an interest, but they will reduce the burden of immediate payment. So when I currently have one on my desk right now, 10 kVA solar system, 15 kilowatt battery, and 15 panels. The total cost is in the about 10 million and thereabouts. But the person will be paying only 206 something thousand naira for a spread of 3 years. You see, that's something that his organization should be able to provide. So that reduces the burden. It doesn't reduce the cost, but it reduces the burden on the individual. I hope that answers your question, sir. Okay. With regards to inferior solar panels, I think policies were. Yes, so we have organizations that are responsible for standards, but regardless, Tokumbo is not necessarily a crime in Nigeria. So it's not Tokumbo doesn't just exist in the solar panel space. It exists in the automobile space too, where you have your Tokumbo shock absorber. People even say that Tokumbo shock absorbers are better than new shock absorbers, but I ventured into the automobile space for a while, for a bit. What I'm trying to say in other words is that what we can only basically do is educate people on the disadvantages. You are cheating yourself by going into Kumbo. It's just as simple as that. And I don't think anybody wants to cheat themselves. That's my response. Another question: do you think solar panels are affordable for the average household or business? If not, what could make them more accessible? Okay, so let me answer the first. The second question is, what other renewable energy do you believe should complement solar energy to achieve? Okay, let me start with the first one. I personally think that solar energy is affordable for that, over a time period. The major problem we have with the solar energy system is because of the cost of the initial installation, which with the new innovations of face small that are coming around, people can actually try to assess them. And in the country right now, there is really no alternative. The alternative is for you to get a generator and then put fuel in it. If you're buying fuel at 1,200, first of all, I don't know about other people, but me, when you turn on a generator, you're always thinking of that fuel. And I don't think anybody wants to live like that. So solar energy at the moment, and even in the future, is one of the most affordable forms of energy, especially over a period of time. What other renewable energy source do you believe should complement solar energy? Okay, so solar energy is one of the most affordable and highly scalable form of renewable energy. But wind energy is something that's also accessible. The disadvantages of wind energy is in fact, that one is basically because of those turbines are very large and very expensive. And another problem with them, and I think they're trying to tackle that problem, is that when the wind turbines don't stop. So if you notice during this hurricane in Florida, when the hurricane came towards the wind turbine, it keeps on spinning till it catches fire. So those are tiny disadvantages in the wind turbine, and then you need a very windy environment to put them in. I don't know if Lagos is actually that windy. When you mount them, if you have excess supply of wind energy, you will lose those turbines, which is a very big loss both for the insurance company and the individual organization that decided to go wind. So for me, I still think, especially for Africa, we should try our best to focus on solar. Solar is still the most affordable renewable energy. When technologies become better, gradually we can now pivot into other forms of renewable energy. Affordable. That's my answer on that. How affordable are solar panels for households and business? Okay, I think I've answered this already. They are affordable when you put all the factors in place. The major problem is the initial cost. So when you put all factors into play, because let me use business, as a business person, as an entrepreneur, you must consider all factors. You don't just think short term, you must also think long term. So when you consider all factors, running costs on a daily basis, maintenance, getting fuel, changing your oil and the rest of all that, when you consider all, because now we are considering only two forms of energy, we are considering fossil fuel and solar, because every other form of renewable energy is beyond reach of most business people here in Nigeria. I don't know anyone that can afford it. When you consider them in place, solar energy is really affordable. And then if the initial cost is too much, you can always seek some form of facility. How can individuals and communities contribute to affordable and clean energy? Well, one of the ways to contribute to it is to create awareness on the damage that fossil fuel is causing to our ecosystem. The cons of using fossil fuel outweighs the pros. Even if fossil fuel is being sold at 1 naira per liter, I will still advocate for solar energy, because as I said in my presentation, the recent research shows that we that are alive right now have 70% more lead or thereabouts, more lead in our system than people that existed 50, 60, 70 years ago. That is a very terrible thing. And we're wondering why we're having cancer and we're dying unnecessarily. It's not really very nice. So I will always, and then with the new innovations that are coming up in battery systems, especially the lithium life PO4 battery, there is lithium iron phosphate batteries and the lithium ion batteries. I think it's a very, very good step in this. So I advocate that awareness, you create awareness on it, and then you try your best to put in some form of clean energy in your homes and in your offices. I know the initial cost might be hard, but the intentional about removing yourself from the fossil fuel campaign and come over to the clean side, I think that's the best thing that we can do. That's my response. And that's the last question that I'm seeing. Right?
Okay, thank you so much for answering all the questions. Does anyone have any more questions to ask before we move forward? Okay, so I think that will be all for now. Thank you all for the questions. A very big thank you to Mr. Ifeanyi for sharing his expertise with us today. We hope this session has given you valuable insights into achieving affordable and clean energy in Nigeria. And as usual, we'll be sending out the presentation slides and the recording of today's session with our participants for today. So keep an eye on your inbox. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at our future events. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you all for joining us today.